One of the most massive moments of forgiveness that I was reading recently. Last week I shared something that Corrie ten Boom said when we talked about fear last week. Corrie ten Boom, for those that are visiting or for those that weren't here last week, has one of the most amazing stories. Her book, The Hiding Place, is probably considered in the last 50 to 60 years, probably one of the top 10 great Christian books. And it was really her journey, her story on how they housed Jews running from the Nazis in Amsterdam. The name of the book is called The Hiding Place, in a little makeshift closet in her room. And finally the Nazis caught up with them, put her whole family in the Nazi concentration camps. Every one of them was exterminated except Corrie, and she went on for 30 more years to begin to preach the gospel. But what was amazing is that if you think about this heinous crime that was done to the Jewish people, of 6 million Jews being exterminated by Nazi Germany, think of this. Think of the forgiveness load that you have to carry with that. Think of the amazing weight that brought to it. David Jeremiah's book recounted a story that Corrie told, and Corrie and her family, as I said, she was the only survivor of it, but she became a Christian after, or kind of started the journey during the concentration camps. And what happened was, for the next 30 years after the concentration camps, Corrie began to preach the gospel all over the world about how God miraculously delivered her. Keep this in mind, what we said at the very beginning. Forgiveness is a lovely idea until you have to forgive yourself. And one day, Corrie said she was preaching in Munich, Germany, many years later, decades after the concentration camp. And at the church she was preaching, she saw a familiar face. The guard who mocked her and would put her in a shower almost every day to pretend he was going to exterminate her, and was responsible for her sister Betsy's death, was sitting in the church while she was preaching. Now it's not so lovely of an idea, is it? She recognized the guard, but he didn't recognize her. After service, Corrie said, the guard came up and said, "Fräulein, I heard you mention Ravensbrück. I was a guard there, but since those days, I've become a Christian. I know that God forgives me, but would you forgive me?" She said, "I stood there paralyzed. This man is a monster. He's filled us with shame. He killed my family, and he killed my sister. And how could she preach forgiveness when she's staring in the face of the one who needs to forgive, and she can't forgive him?" And she said that she sat there at that moment in that church service, and this was her prayer: "Forgive me, Father, for the inability to forgive." Think of that for just a moment. Forgive me for the inability to forgive. And she said immediately something happened. This power of the Holy Spirit surged through her. She felt her hand go out, clasp his, and said to the man, "You are forgiven." And she said that day, not only was the man set free, I was set free that day. Keep this in mind, Times Square Church. When you forgive, you're not changing the past, but you are changing your future. Let me say